So you've opted to go for an interchangeable lens camera for your videos. But you've noticed when you go to buy one, they come in two forms: a kit that includes a lens and body only. Body only won't do you any good. You actually do need a lens on it. So what lens do you go for? Well, the kit lenses aren't great. However, they are pretty good for what you're getting, and they'll definitely get you started. This is what Canon include in their kits, typically. It's an EFS 18 to 55 lens. So let's put that on now and see what it looks like. So what does the 18 to 55 actually mean? That is the focal length. So 18 is wide angle, and the bigger the number, the closer it gets in. On point and shoots, that would be represented by a multiplication factor. So it'd be a 10 times zoom camera. This isn't a 10 times zoom lens. So that's 18, and this is 55. One of the things you'll notice is it got a lot darker all of a sudden. And that is one of the downsides with these less expensive lenses. They also have an aperture listed on them, and in this case it's 3.5 to 5.6. The bigger the number, the slower the lens, or less amount of light is let in. And that 5.6 means that when you're zoomed in to 55 millimeters, less light is let in. There's lots of ways to compensate for that, the primary way being to raise or lower your ISO. And we'll talk about lighting and how that affects your videos and how you can do a better job of that in a separate episode. So why would you ever need wider than 18 millimeters? Well, you can get a fair bit in here, and that's over a 6 meter span or so. It's when you're getting in closer to things that it can start to be a problem. So we're now at the workbench, and this is getting a fair bit of the frame. Perhaps you don't have a large area, so you need to have the camera in close, but you still want to include all the details. This is, as I said, the 18 millimeter. So let's switch back to a 16 millimeter lens I have and see what happens. So as you can see here, you're getting a bit more information, though not a massive amount. I haven't moved the camera at all. I've just changed the lens and it's now at 16 millimeters. You'll probably also note that some of the lines don't look straight, and that's as you start getting wider and wider, you're going to get more of a fisheye effect. So on the flip side, when would you ever need more than a 55 millimeter lens? We're about 60 centimeters away from the blade here, and that's what the writing looks like. So I've switched lenses again. I haven't moved the camera at all. This is 135 millimeters. This is the largest zoom I have for my SLR. Now this allows a few different things. For one, the text is much easier to read as it's larger. If you're focusing on something quite small, obviously that's going to be easier. At the same time, I've put the camera on the other side of the workshop. I'm now about 6 meters away from it, and this is quite a good headshot, whereas if I'm on the 18 or 55 mil of the other lens, suddenly I'm a little bit far away. There'll be some distortion, it maybe won't look as natural, and the scene is a lot busier as suddenly, in the exact same position, there's so much more going on. And if we go down to the 18 millimeter end, this is just getting a little bit silly now. There's just way too much going on. I'm not really talking to the camera, but to the entire room, and it makes for kind of a crappy video. So if you're just starting out, what lens should you get? That's an impossible question to answer. If you've got infinite money and you think you're going to do this forever, there are a whole bunch of really expensive, really lovely lenses you should get, but you might only use them once. They may not cover the sort of work that you do, the sort of work you're shooting. If you have to get just one lens, I would really recommend getting the kit lens from whatever your camera manufacturer is. It's typically going to be something around the 18 to 55 range. Panasonic have one that I think is 20 to 60, something like that. They're not going to be the world's greatest lenses, but they'll give you a start, and that start will help you learn what you're not covering. Don't spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a lens just to find out that you chose the wrong focal length. Realistically, if you're a maker or doing maker style videos, you probably are working in some sort of workshop environment, whether it's a garage workshop like this, a proper workshop inside cooking or soldering or nail art or whatever, and you don't need that long of a lens. If you're doing macro shots, perhaps 100mm, but otherwise you're probably going to want a wider field of view than a narrower one, so probably the 18 to 55 range is what you should be getting. Thanks for watching.